Thank you, guys. All right. Some of these passages, this is probably not another one of those that's not so fun to talk about, I guess, but anyway. It is Proverbs. Proverbs helps us understand a lot of things. I guess whenever I say that, I'm thinking there's some people who I ask to read for us, and I give them choices, and they're like, "Can I have the other one or whatever?" So do appreciate those guys who read for us. Hopefully, you're reading through Proverbs some on your own. It's always helpful that way, I think, to be able to do a little bit of studying, reading ahead of time. So anyway. Chapter 6 gets into a little bit more diverse topics. Obviously, when we get to 10, there'll be a lot more diverse topics, really individual ones that are kind of scattered throughout. So it'll be that way. This continues on kind of from last week about some of the foolish things that people do and should try to avoid. So anyway, we're going to be in chapter 6. And I've asked Paul Adams if he will read verses 1 through 5. So whenever you're ready, Paul, let's do that.
My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor or entered into an agreement with a stranger, you have been snared by the words of your mouth, trapped by the words from your mouth. Do this then, my son, and free yourself. For you have put yourself in your neighbor's power. Go humble yourself and plead with your neighbor. Don't give sleep to your eyes or slumber to your eyelids. Escape like a gazelle from a hunter, like a bird from a hunter's trap.
All right. So we want to avoid some foolish things, not be thoughtless, think about what we're doing. And the first one is financial. Or a lot of that is financial, or partnering with somebody in those financial ways. You need to free yourself and run like a gazelle, run from a hunter. So that's gives you a picture, doesn't it? How many of you are really good with money?
Spending it?
Spending it? Okay, yeah.
How can you get co-signed a note for somebody else?
Yeah, there's a good question. Fred says, how many of you co-signed a note with someone else or for someone else? Okay. That's out there, isn't it? Hopefully it was somebody you could really trust. What's that?
My granddaughter.
Your granddaughter, okay. Daughter, okay. It is a commitment. I mean, it's a commitment you're taking on along with them. So it's you want to go in debt for something that is worth it, I guess. But money can really be a delicate thing and divide family, good friends, Christian people. The list could go on a lot of ways, but certainly you don't want to just run out there and sign with somebody else who you don't agree with, that is going to do something with it you don't want and wouldn't be happy about and that wouldn't get you in trouble. So anybody want to have any confessions on that? Examples? Paul, what did yours say in that second section of 3? This says, go to the point of exhaustion. Yours had a different word, and give your neighbor no rest.
Go humble yourself and plead with your neighbor.
Yeah, humble yourself. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. Interesting translation there. Your neighbor's hands. The first part of that, fall into your neighbor's hands, or power. Power is what yours said. So very good.
Never co-sign for anything you can't afford to lose.
Yeah. It's always easier to get in than to get out, isn't it? Debt is that way. It's easy to go into debt, but it's hard to get out. And like you said, if you lose something that you can't afford to lose, that's a good practical application. Joe?
Are they calling someone who hunts birds a fowler?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like a hunter, I guess, but a fowler. When I first put that in my word processor, it wanted to capitalize that word like it was a name, a family name, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, a lot of people have the name Fowler, but that is it, do we use that in Oklahoma or Western Midwest here, or? No, okay. Is that the word yours use, Paul? Or does yours just say hunter?
Like a bird from a hunter's trap.
Hunter's trap, okay. All right.
The New King James uses fowler because known from the one who hunts with a snare.
Okay. Oh, okay.
This court says bird catcher.
All right, McCord says bird catcher. Well, that's good. Well, verse 4 might be the one price you pay for that too, is you need to get things straightened out pretty quickly. Don't sleep, don't slumber. It means you need to get with it. So, and take action quickly. Any questions or comments on that section?
That's pretty hard to do if you put your name on the line.
Yeah, the bankers don't really care for that, do they? You sign your name on the line, you are theirs. You're in your banker's hands, not your neighbor's hands.
Doing security at the credit union where I did for 23 years, it was amazing how many times I would hear discussions of individuals that had co-signed for other individuals that had ended up having to pay
Yeah.
the loans off. I mean, it was hundreds of times.
Wow. Lewis was saying when he was a security officer at a bank, whenever people would come in, a lot of discussions and hundreds of times that happened. So
Yes.
it happens more often than probably I would have guessed anyway. So
Probably a lot of tears.
yeah, a lot of heartbreak and tears. Jim.
Yeah, there's a big difference between co-signer and co-owner.
Okay.
I want to keep that in mind. If your parents, for example, if you're a co-signer with your parents and you're helping them, and when they move on, you go to the bank and say, I'd like to write a check, to use these funds, or if they lost their account or whatever, they say, no, that co-signer doesn't work anymore. You have to be a co-owner.
Okay. All right. Good wisdom there. Ron?
My sister worked at Fidelity Bank downtown in about 1978. She was in high school. An adult came in, a woman, and said, I got a notice from the bank. I don't have any money. I don't understand. I have all these checks. And my sister had to explain that to her. And she was in high school.
Wow.
So some people don't get it.
Yeah. And I hope it's better now in school. When I was in school, I don't know if I had any teaching on managing a checkbook or how to manage money. And to me, that's a real simple thing that we all need to learn. But so teach your kids and grandkids. I'm kind of old fashioned. I still pay a lot with cash, and more places are going cashless. You can't buy with cash. But I've discovered there's a growing percentage of people who can't make change. They want to give me back more money than I gave them in the first place, and I'm like, no, that's
They
not how
stand there and look
that's
at
right.
it.
It's yeah.
You might even want to tell that story twice.
Yeah. Oh,
You need a debit card now.
yeah, that's true. And
Everybody will take a debit card.
I paid a little bit more more lately with my phone, and it's kind of scary how you can just get close to that thing and it rings it up for you. I'm like, wait a minute, I wasn't quite ready. Well, money is a large part of life, and the wisdom that you can gain in managing money and the wisdom you can teach your grandkids about money is really important. All right, the second section is really a section on hard work. I know this is going to be preaching to the choir, but Fred's going to read for us 6 through 11. Travis is on the way with the microphone.
Go to the ant, you sluggard. Watch her ways and be wise. Who, having no chief, overseer, or ruler, prepares her bread in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. How long will you stay in bed, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands in sleep will leave you as poor as a homeless man, as poor as if you had been robbed.
Okay. Guys, get your afternoon nap today? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands. You need your rest. I'm not making a lot of that, but it is kind of sobering to think about how we do need our rest, don't we, Larry?
I think it's very unique that God uses something that we really don't like very well, ants. But this is a real compliment to an ant.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to learn from animals and insects and God's creatures. The idea of the ant that doesn't have a boss, no commander, no overseer or ruler, and yet they just work. That's
I thought they had queens just like bees.
they do, yeah, they do, don't they? Queen ants, yeah. We talked about wisdom used in female sense, so this is they have we are workers. Our generation knew what it was to work, didn't we? I told you guys a lot of times, I know that my dad said that's the problem with the world today is we live in a time when kids don't grow up on farms and learn how to work. And there's some truth to that, but it's bigger than that. All of us need to learn how to work and participate in activities and things. And certainly families have their allowances and duties and that type of thing.
You know, there's I heard on the news some time ago that for a lot of employers today, there's an age group that they really don't want to hire because they don't know how to work and they don't want to work. They want stuff given to them. And I think they call it the Generation Z. And to them are, they've been given stuff their whole life so far. And that's what they expect they expect the employer to give them money while they sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of employers are not hiring that age of people because they don't know how to work.
Yeah. Joe?
Back to the ants. You have to realize that the person in charge is not a male, it's a female.
Yeah, on the ants, yeah, the queens, that's right.
Not a ruling queen.
What's that?
She doesn't tell them what to do. She's the queen ant, but they just do their jobs.
Okay.
She doesn't have power.
Our grandkids came over the other night because we have a storm shelter and my wife was gonna fix supper for one of our sons and his family, and she put the kids to work fixing the meal. And they loved it. baking cookies, different things. Sometimes just learning how to participate in all that is a good way to learn how to work. I was always afraid to have my kids mow the grass and it was my issue because I was afraid they would get hurt mowing the grass. So I didn't let them do that very often. But nowadays kids want to mow the grass barefoot and everything else. Anyway, yes, Bonnie.
Our granddaughter would come over a lot when they were younger, and she had never seen anybody, I guess, wash dishes. They always put them in the dishwasher, and I have a dishwasher, and I used to put them in there. And she saw me washing a few things, and she said, "Why are you doing that?" Well, then she liked it, and she started doing it too.
Wow.
I thought, wow.
Yeah.
They'd never seen anybody wash dishes. And I've washed them in.
I guess it's our American way, but there is something good about learning how to work, getting tired, and then really enjoying a good evening's rest and being thankful for what God gave you that day and be able to get the next day. All right, Ken Kaufman is going to read for us 12 through 15.
A worthless person, a wicked man, is the one who walks with a perverse mouth, who winks with his eyes, who signals with his feet, who points with his fingers, who with perversity in his heart continually devises evil, who spreads strife. Therefore, his calamity will come suddenly. Instantly he will be broken, and there will be no healing.
All right. Ken really didn't want to read this one tonight, but Judy said he would. So this dishonesty. What is that New American Standard you read out of, Ken? Yes. Okay. Then the NIV talks about troublemaker and a villain. The idea of being just wired that way. I think Rayner boys were wired that way, so we don't have a good reputation back where I came from. So, but there you have to be honest. And you have to learn some honesty. I think I've told you before. Years ago, we were having a family reunion in Clinton, Oklahoma, and we went next door to the gas station, a little convenience store, and Patrick was just yay high. He was just tall enough. He's like my grandkids' age now, but he decided he wanted some kind of candy or something there. And we got halfway back to the building and he had that. And I said, "We've got to go back. You've got to apologize." And we went back, and I think the owner was kind of embarrassed in a way that I did that, but always remind him of that, the importance of being honest and correcting your mistakes. And unfortunately, that place went out of business. I noticed the last year or so. So I told him, I said, "Man, if you would have stole that, they wouldn't have gone broke." But we're tempted, like Adam and Eve, to avoid consequences. So we kind of come up with a scheme sometimes to do things we shouldn't, thinking, well, that will get us by another day or get us through this difficult time. But honesty, integrity is really, really important. The corrupt mouth, the winks, malicious winks, the plots and the planning for evil and deceit causes a lot of conflict and disturbance and all of that. And then disaster comes. And people struggle with, I was doing the best I could, and I don't know why that happened to me, but disaster does come. When you tell one lie, you got to cover up with another lie. It's just easier to just get it straightened out, get back on the right.
Blame someone else.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though they're the ones that are plotting it.
Yeah. So yeah, somebody else's fault. Very much like Adam and Eve. Ada?
I think some of the stories are going back to having checkers, because if you serve yourself, a lot of people are not checking everything out and they're losing money.
Yeah. Good point. There was an article about that on television, or a story about that on television yesterday, that California's changing their laws. You can only check out 10 items or less, and they have to have so many checkers working there. They were saying part of that was for the economy, for people to have jobs, but they were talking about, wow, they had a huge number of people who said they had stolen before, compromised the transaction there, and that they were planning on doing it again. That's just mind-boggling to me. Joe?
Target does that now.
Okay,
10 or less.
Target does it. Ron?
I wanted to share that when I worked in Mississippi, I worked with a bunch of Cajuns. We were right on the Gulf Coast. And there were quite a few with certain surnames, and I noticed one that there weren't very many of them. And I asked my coworker, I said, I don't understand this. Why are there not very many Brelands? He said, oh, that's easy. They hung us for our beliefs. And I said, well, what did you believe? He said, we believed all the free-range cattle and pigs were ours, and they weren't. And when you said that about your last name, it made me think of the Brelands.
Well, we develop a reputation, and then we have to live with it. And it takes a long time to get over that. Jim?
Kids can learn good habits. And, my grandson has Downs, and he's got in the habit of putting things in his pocket. So when you go into the grocery store, convenience store, always check those pockets in there. But we've had an issue the last 6 months or so, and he's learning. He's reminding me now to put it in the basket, and after you pay for it, you don't even put it in your pocket then, because you don't want to walk out that store with stuff in your pockets. You put it in your pockets when you get outside the store.
Yeah.
So and he's learning. Kids can learn.
Mm-hmm. You know, and one of the reasons why a lot of stores are going cashless is because there's so much counterfeit money and robberies. So if it's all kind of electronically stored somewhere else, they avoid that. So consequences of dishonesty, they follow generations sometimes. All right, probably the next section Larry Young is going to read, but the next section may possibly be one of the most famous of this chapter. So 16 through 19.
There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community.
All right. So how do you think God feels about these? He hates them, yeah. Haughty eyes, what's that?
That's an interesting one because it, I think a superiority complex or something.
Any different translations on that first one?
Proud look.
Proud look, okay. Okay.
With the footnote of haughty eyes.
Okay. Yeah, we don't use that word haughty eyes very much, do we? But yes, the Lord hates that. They're detestable to him. These are a lot of these are about character, aren't they? Haughty eyes, a lying tongue. We talked about lying previously. Hands that shed innocent blood. That's it seems like there's more people who take other people's lives now without much thought. That's kind of scary because people are valuable. They're made in God's image. Were you gonna say something, Ron?
Yes, it's interesting that it says innocent, shed innocent blood. So that would make it to where if someone deserved it.
Yeah. there was a story on the news just a few days ago about some guys who were, did they go to Mexico to hunt or something? And somebody,
Surf.
okay, to surf, that's right, yeah. And then they found they were killed and then put in a well or something, and,
2 Australians, 1 American.
yeah.
They determined it was because the ones that killed them wanted the tires off of their vehicle.
Wow. That, it's just scary to think, and how troubling that is that somebody, for tires, they would shed innocent blood over a set of tires or something like that. That's,
It's a sign of the times.
well, and the lack of wisdom and respect for God's word and the teaching of God's word that we all need from God's word, the value of people.
Look at the communities that have, quote, defunded the police. Their crime rate has gone up substantially. You can commit a crime, go to court, be released. Murders are up. And, there's no sense of any kind of punishment. So why not do it?
You know, statistically, that is a lie, exaggeration. It just does not bear out statistically. Crime rate since the late 80s has gone down in almost every city of any size. It's gone down in Chicago. It's just that the crime rate was so high in Chicago to start with.
Well, and it really starts from small age of what we learn the value of other individuals are. Learning how to get along. Cain and Abel had a hard one. They weren't taught well enough.
It kind of started back in the 70s with abortion being legalized. If we don't cherish babies before they're born, why cherish anybody else?
Yeah, every person has a soul made in God's image that we have to grow and respect that way, the value of people. Feet that are quick, no. A heart that devises wicked schemes. Amazing how much that people sit around and dream up ways to scam others rather than just work hard and mind your own business and work for a living. Quick to rush into evil. False witness again, he pours out lies. Very much like a lying tongue. I don't know what the difference is there, but I guess if you went to court and you didn't tell the truth, that's a little bit different probably. A person who stirs up conflict in the community. We should be peacemakers, not conflict creators. So find ways to make peace.
My version says among brethren.
Among brethren, okay.
That always reminds me of congregations that have split because somebody sowed discord within the congregation. And the eldership did not, as Barney Fife would say, nip it in the bud.
That's when one person thinks they're greater than the whole, whenever family and church tells us that the whole is what's important, and the hand can't say to the foot, I don't need you, for the ear and the mouth and all that. We work together. All is important. All right, Doug, the backside of the sheet, a stern warning against adultery. I know we talked about that last week. It's in chapter 7 as well next week, so a little bit of addition here.
My son, keep your father's command, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them always on your heart. Fasten them around your neck. When you walk, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will speak to you. For this command is a lamp. This teaching is a light, and correction and instruction are the way to life, keeping you from your neighbor's wife, from the smooth talk of a wayward woman.
Do not lust in your heart after her beauty, or let her captivate you with her eyes. For a prostitute can be had for a loaf of bread, but another man's wife preys on your very life. Can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Can a man walk on hot coals without his feet being scorched? So is he who sleeps with another man's wife. No one who touches her will go unpunished. People do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his hunger when he's starving. Yet if he is caught, he must pay sevenfold, though it cost him all the wealth of his house. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. Blows and disgrace are his lot, and his shame will never be wiped away. For jealousy arouses a husband's fury, and he will show no mercy when he takes revenge. He will not accept any compensation. He will refuse a bribe, however great it is.
All right. Anything new there from last week? Again, I think about the father and the mother teaching their children, so important about that. Keep your father's command and don't forsake your mother's teaching. That's good stuff. Bind them or fasten them to your neck. Teaching is a light, which is really helpful. Correction and instruction are the way of life. That means we have to continually teach it, I think, until it becomes a habit or a mindset or a way of life. Verse 25 talks about do not lust in your heart. Remember what Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount? You've heard it said in times of old not to commit adultery, but I say unto you, don't look on a woman lustfully. That's kind of interesting that that's what Proverbs says. Anything else there? Oh, can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? That was probably back in the day when they had fireplaces, wasn't it?
I like one, but a man who commits adultery has no sense.
That's kind of hard to understand, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, what were you thinking? That's not in your right mind. So
I think the biggest thing is it said jealousy arouses a husband's fury.
yeah.
So he's the one you need to look out for.
Very, very strong language in that. All right. And I guess the last verse you could summarize it saying, money's not going to change attitudes very much, is it? Money is not the answer, but that's sometimes what we think. So. All right. Yes, Fred?
I don't want to get political, but there's a trial going on right now about somebody like this who was married and was involved with a woman. Paid her afterward, but still, it seems to be no shame over that part.
Yeah.
Shame he got paid, but seems to be no shame about the adult.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, we say over and over again, when we talk about Solomon, he should have known better, I guess. I mean, he should have listened to his own advice or the inspiration, the God-breathed nature of what God told him to write down. And he's going to come and pray for us. And if you think of anybody else that we need to be praying for,